Okay, so welcome back, everybody. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, our next guest. So next up, we've got Frefrik Dahlberg, or Fred, as most people tend to call him. He's the I guess the product owner for Safran Risk and the lead developer. He joined the Safran team back in 2014 and has worked with the development of various project risk analysis tools for over 10 years, including several years at Oracle. So Fred's genuinely happy when he gets positive feedback from customers on new features, as well as when he has time to play a tune on his guitar, apparently. So maybe we could get a song from him on the next event. And so his session is going to be kind of looking really at what's new and what's coming up in Safran Risk. So Fred, thank you very much. Pleasure to welcome you to the stage and looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks, Doug. Yes, as Doug said, I've been working with the development of risk analysis software for a bit more than 10 years now, I think. I just did a quick calculation and I started at a company called Perthmaster in 2005. So
20
I haven't been
years.
working. Sorry?
Sorry, my apologies. Craig's notes were obviously off the mark. So apologies, I've undersold your experience by half.
I was going to say that probably about 15 of those years I've been working with risk analysis software. So can you see my presentation now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I can't see any of you, of course, but that's fine. So yeah. So as Doug said, my name is Frefrik Dahlberg, and I'm the product owner of Safran Risk. So been in the game for a while, and I've been with Safran since 2014. Then I joined, and I've been mostly working with the development of Safran Risk since I joined. And the first version of Safran Risk that was released was in April 2015. So that means that we're celebrating the 10-year anniversary now for this product. So hopefully you will agree that we have made a lot of progress over the last 10 years. Yep, so this presentation is going to be a bit about what we've done in the last couple of versions, and also what we're about to release in the next major version. So normally during development of Safran Risk, we have two things going on at the same time. We're working on the next major release, which is like a big release with big features, big changes that we that comes out. We aim for once a year, but it doesn't always happen once a year. And then in parallel, we're working on smaller features and bug fixes on what we call service releases. So first, I thought I'd take you through the main features that we added in the last major release, which was 22.2. And then I'll go over to what we did in the current release, which is the latest version, 22.2. And then on to like the next major release. And one of the main features in the next major release is going to be this new schedule health module that I will tell you more about later. And finally, I'm hoping to be able to give a quick demo of the unreleased version of our software, 25.1. So a disclaimer here, it's in alpha mode, which means it hasn't been fully tested. So if something goes wrong, that's why. Okay, let's move on. So as I said, our last major release was 22.2. And the first version of this came out in Q4 2023. So you might wonder, why is it called 22? Well, it was actually going to be called 23.1, but for various reasons, we had to call it 22.2 instead. But the main rule here is that like the version number is aligned with the year that the first major release comes out. So that's why we're going to call the next one 25. So 22.2 contains some great functionality. So I just want to do a quick recap of that functionality in case you might be totally new to Safran Risk, or you might have used Safran Risk for a while and you just haven't like really seen the new features. Or maybe you're on an older version and this could give you like a good incentive to upgrade. So these were like probably the main features that were added in 22.2. We added a new way of login to your database using Microsoft Entra, which is previously known as the Azure Active Directory. So it was the first version. We're actually going to improve this quite a lot in 25.1 because a lot of organizations we've noticed are moving their databases onto the cloud, into Azure, for example. So the next one that actually has been used quite a lot and appreciated is one we call Advanced Impacts. I have a screenshot of that here. Let's see if this works. Yes. So normally, like when you set up your model, you create your risk register, and then in order for your risks to have an impact on your schedule or costs, you need to map them. So like this impact is by default normally, say for example, the impact is 100 days and you map it to 3 activities. It's gonna, when the risk happens, it's just gonna add those 100 days to all the 3 activities. And that might be what you wanted. But it might also be that maybe you wanted to just say like, oh, it's 100 days in total, for example, and you just want to spread those 100 days out over the 3 activities. And with this new advanced impacts feature, you can do stuff like that and more. So for example, you can spread over all mappings, spread over a subset of the mappings, or just say like, I want this absolute value to be added to like a subset of the mappings, for example. So this gives you like more of a chance to emulate reality in many situations, basically. The next feature I wanted to mention that came out in 22.2 is these risk columns. So obviously this is our risk register in Safran Risk. It contains a lot of information for every risk. But previously it was limited to only seeing like a handful of columns here, like the ID, description, risk type, probability, and a color, I think. And with this version, you can now add like most of the different properties of a risk to this table here that you see to the left. So in this example, for example, we just added a column mappings count, which quite a lot of people actually asked us this question, like, how can I see which risks are not in use? The easiest way. And there were ways before to do it, but not a real simple way. And now once we have this column here, it's very simple. You just add this column and you see like where is it equal to 0. That means the risk has not been used. It's not mapped to any cost elements or risks. A little caveat there, it can actually be used if you're using scripting still, but that's for the very advanced users. So the next sort of like a little bit related feature that we added in 22.2 is for the risk mapping screen. So once you have your risk register and you do the mapping to the activities in this screen. And previously we only had like the activity IDs here on the left and descriptions. And then you had the uncertainties and your risks. But maybe you wanted to see like loads of information about the activities. For example, maybe you wanted to know the duration of the activity. Maybe you wanted to know if it was on the critical path. Maybe you wanted to know which year it was scheduled into the deterministic plan when you were doing like your risk mapping in your risk workshop. And so now you can actually add all the schedule values you can add as columns in this risk mapping screen. And it could also be, for example, like a user field, like say you have a user field in your Primavera schedule called risk notes, where like any planner could put any notes related to like the risks on that activity. And that could be very useful to have an access when you're doing this risk mapping, the risk estimation here. So and finally in 22.2, I just want to mention that we now also have this ability to set the activity uncertainty, like uncertainty on the duration of the activities with any distribution. Before 22.2, this was limited to just 4 types of distributions. I think they were the triangle, trigen, beta pert, and uniform. But now you can use any of them, for example, cumulative or normal and things like that. So moving on. So since 22.2 was released in 2023, we have actually released 6 new service packs of it. And we have added not only minor features, actually, some rather big features as well. The last service pack was called 22.250, and it came out like, I think it was in June this year. So the major things that we had added over those 6 service packs are like performance improvements. You know, quantitative risk analysis is quite complex, and Safran Risk is a very complex software product. So like keeping it responsive actually is not always super simple, but we always focus on that. So if you compare like the first version 22.2 with 22.50, you should see that like it's a lot quicker in certain areas, and especially if in the cost module and in the sensitivity. So I've also improved many of the imports. Imports is another complex field. Like we import like not only our own files, but also files from external products such as Primavera and Microsoft, and even other like the Power project. So obviously it's hard for us when we start out developing to foresee every single combination of schedules. So it's a constant like we're constantly working on improving those imports. Yeah. Another thing we did that might not be so relevant to you, but we changed our licensing system. Just this will allow us to keep track of all licenses in a much easier way. And for bigger organizations, we actually can provide like what we call the customer portal, which means that like customers of ours that have a lot of licenses can get access to this portal and then see the use of Safran Risk within their organization. Oops. We also added like a direct import of the risk register from OPRA, also known as PertMaster. So if you maybe are on this call and you're an existing PertMaster users, and you thought like it would be nice to try out Safran Risk, well, now it's a little bit easier, because you can very easily now move your model over from PertMaster into Safran Risk and just try it out. And we also added like a new export from the critical path map into Excel. Okay, so let's go on to the new stuff then, the exciting stuff. So the next version that we're planning to release, yeah, Doug asked me when it's going to happen. I want to say like November. That's what we're aiming for at the moment. But you know how it is with projects.
That's right.
All right, so 25.1. So these are some of the highlights that we have in 25.1. We have this new option in all the output reports called remaining total. So I have a little screenshot of that here. The problem here is that like when you're looking at the output, for example, here in the distribution graph, we're looking at the duration distribution of a risk analysis. And I think when we started out, we always show the remaining durations in this report. And then some of our users complained and said they wanted to see the total duration, mean actual plus remaining. So we changed to the total duration. And then some other users complained and said like, no, we wanted to see the remaining duration. So now finally in this version, we've added like this option here in the output, which is called include actuals. So if you want to see the total, you just check this. If you just want to see the remaining, you uncheck it. It's very easy. And of course, it only impacts duration and cost, because finish dates are what they are. And same with start dates. But it's a nice little feature. You might also notice that this is in the section called output options up here. So this means that it impacts all of the output tabs where it's relevant. That's the difference between the top section and the bottom section. So if you change that here, and then, for example, you go to another one like scatterplot that could also be impacted by this, it will also impact that. So it's the same option. Next one is something we call scheduled costs in cost module. This has to do with like there are two different ways of modeling costs in Safran Risk, in the as resources in the schedule, or in the cost module. So I thought I was going to show you this in a quick demo later on. So I'll just move on right now. The next thing is what I call customizable report texts. So this is another thing that impacts the output reports. So in output reports, for example, distribution graph, we have various texts here. One main title and some like titles for the axis. There's also a title here at the bottom that is nothing in this particular screenshot. But before these have been locked, I mean, they're dynamic so that they change like when you're looking at various activities or various summaries, but you couldn't change them. So, but now we're allowing you to change them over here in the settings. And you can do this by adding these variables, you can call them, where you can, for example, write, I always want to see the project and then the element name and then the type, for example. So this allows you to customize them a bit more. This has been requested by quite a few customers, actually. Okay. And for those of you who are using risk calendars, risk calendars is a feature in Safran Risk, mostly used for modeling weather. So you can, of course, use it for modeling other things, but I would say that 99% of the people using it are using it for weather. So in this version, we've added like a way to group these calendars, and also you can move them in between different groups in a very easy way. The previous version of organizing these calendars was very rudimentary and a bit like static. So for those of you who use the calendar, this should be quite a good improvement. And finally here we have, we have another new find functionality that I will show you later. And the main feature in 25.1 is this thing called a schedule health module. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about this schedule health module before I show you the quick demo. So of course, for a planner, it's important to have a good schedule because the schedule is what is used to calculate the dates of when things will be finished. I would say for a risk analysis, even more important, because during a risk analysis, we change things like durations and resource assignments and costs and all that. So if the schedule doesn't hang together, for example, say that you change in the duration of an activity here in the beginning, but you have like a must start on constraint in the middle of your schedule. So it doesn't matter how much you change its duration because your middle of the schedule is going to stand there fixed. So the output of your analysis will be quite worthless. So it's a very important to have a good linked up schedule with a few constraints as possible, of course. So some risk analysts might get a lot of schedules from planners, and therefore it's good to have some very quick way of finding out like what's the quality of this schedule. So you want to know like if it's okay or if it's not so good, and you just need to maybe send it back with some comments to the planner. So this is why almost every risk analysis tool will have some way of showing you the quality of a schedule. And there are also many strategies for doing this check. As for example, is DCMA 14 check developed by the US Defense Department. So at the moment in Safran Risk, we have some offerings. We have, as part of our planning tool, we have this, which is pretty comprehensive. but a little bit hard to set up perhaps. It gives reports that look like this. This is the standard way of doing it in Safran Risk. It's just a list of all the basically issues that you have in your schedule. And this is another check we can do. So what we're trying to do now with the new schedule health module is just to do one schedule check to rule them all, so to speak. So when we started out this work, we set up some design goals of what we wanted to achieve with this new schedule health. And we wanted like a real simple setup, like preferably no setup. Like a user of Safran Risk should just be able to open up or import a project and then straight away get a feel for the quality of that schedule. We wanted like, in order to give this sort of direct feedback, we wanted like a clear overview and some sort of score. We should be able to drill down like, okay, is there one part of the project that is better than another? Like where is like most of the issues in this schedule? I wanted to build it around the concept of metrics. So a metrics is basically like something that returns a pass or fail for an activity. For example, has the activity got a constraint? Has the activity got more than 5 predecessors and is on the critical path? Has the activity got very long negative lags, also known as leads, for example? And we want to create these tests, and one test will consist of a number of metrics. So we want to ship it with predefined metrics and predefined tests, because you shouldn't really need to do anything to just get it running. But also it should be very customizable, so you can define your own tests and you can define your own metrics. So what will this look like? That's what I'm going to show you now. Let's see if this software actually works. I have it running here. This is version 25.1 alpha 3. So the third alpha version. I can say like if anyone is particularly interested in helping us with some beta testing, you could just send an email to our support. We have a little group of beta testers that get these early releases, and it's very important for us, of course, to get this early feedback, especially on big new features like the schedule health. And it gives you a chance to be a little bit involved in the direction of our development. So I have just got this plan here. It's the standard UAV drone demo, where I've added like a couple of issues just to show you what the schedule health looks like. And straight away, I was going to say as well that the current schedule check we call it schedule warnings. It will still be there in the next version, but going forward, we will most likely remove it. So you see straight away here the difference between our schedule warnings. I'm not sure, this might be small on your screens, but hopefully you can see something. You have the schedule warnings up here, and it's just telling you 6 warnings. Okay, 6 warnings, that's great to know, but it doesn't really tell me much about the quality of the schedule, because what type of warnings are there? And like, it depends on how big the schedule is. Like if it's a 5,000 activity schedule, that's probably excellent. But for this schedule, it's probably not very good. So instead, in the schedule health, we have this percentage, which is just 56%. So this is the way the old one looks like, and this is the new one looks like. So straight away, you can see that you have this score here. That might be the first thing you look at. And there are various ways of calculating these scores. I'm not going to go into them today, but I can say that the way that we calculate the score here is very simple. We're just basically looking at what percentage of activities have got no issues. So this is straight away telling us like 56% of activities have got no issues, meaning the rest have got issues. So not super great. And then you can see here, like in what I call the dashboard, okay, what are these issues? We can see we didn't, this is, by the way, this is a test that is doing the DCMA 14 up here. And you can have as many tests as you want. At the moment, we have 2 in this one. We have the DCMA 14, and we have one called Safran Risk Ready, which is very similar to what we did in schedule warnings. So yeah, in the dashboard, you can see here that we have some different metrics that we're measuring, and we can straight away see, okay, in the schedule, we have some leads, we have some lags, we have a hard constraint, we have some high float and some high duration. And if we're looking at the next part, it basically shows us like the schedule hierarchy. So then we can see straight away, like, okay, in which part of the schedule do we have most of the issues? And since I know that like normally hard constraints are the worst issues, I might be starting to look at in this column here, hard constraint. And I can see straight away that, okay, I have one on test guidance here. So the other parts of this view is like down here, we can see like per metric, how many issues we have. Like there's an issues column here. And we also see whether there's a pass or fail and so on. And then in the last quarter down here, it's basically like a combination of what you have selected here and what you have selected here. So at the moment, we're looking at test guidance and all metrics. So then we get like issues for all metrics for the test guidance. If we want to look at the whole project and all metrics, we have all these issues. And if I just want to look at the test summary, I click on test summary, all metrics, and maybe I just want to see, do we have any hard constraints in the testing phase? I click there and I see, okay, there is one. This is the one. Just as an example, let me show you how to fix that. And you can note that like the whole report here updates as you fix it. So if I click go to schedule, I can remove this one. That's a hard constraint. And go back. So now it's 56. So hopefully it should go up a little bit. It reanalyzes as soon as you do any changes to the schedule. So now the score went up to 59% straight away. What do you say, Doug? Have I got a few more minutes or?
Yep. No, absolutely, Fred. You carry on. This
okay.
This is great.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So you might have noticed that this hard constraint, even though when it was 4%, it was still green. And it's because you have like these thresholds on all metrics. And this threshold happens to be set to like, it's a pass if it's less than 5% of the activities have a hard constraint. And you might think, yeah, I think it should be red if I have any hard constraints. I don't like hard constraints. So of course, we have these default tests that are shipped with the product. But you can go into like this admin section over here and create your own tests and create your own metrics. So I'm just going to quickly show you how to do that. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a new metrics, our hard constraints, that is not 5%. I want to set it to 0%. So all of these ones, they can't be changed. They are come with Safran Risk. But you can make a copy of them. So if I want to make a copy and make my own hard constraints metrics, I can do it like this, copy metric. And maybe I want to call it hard constraints Safran, because I work for Safran. And you can see here how the metrics are built up. They basically have like a section where you're saying, okay, which activities are we going to include in this check? And you can see, is it going to be just activities or also milestones, hammock summaries? Or is it going to be not started, in progress, or completed? So it's like a little filter here. And then you have something like a formula. And it's not as hard as it looks, I promise you. And then we have this threshold there. And this is the one we want to say like, no, this has to be like less or equal to 0% to be a pass for these metrics. So now we have our own metric here. Okay, so how are we going to use this one? We can't, it's the same with a metric, we can't change the test that are shipped with the product. We can make a copy of them. So I'm going to make a copy of this test and say, I don't want to use these hard constraints that came with Safran. I want to use my own one, which is confusingly named to Safran. And I want it to be up here. And here you can see that we have like the name of the metric here, but you can actually change the name the way it's displayed in that particular test. So since this is a DCMA14 test, we're used to seeing hard constraints on as metric number 5. So that's why I call it 5 dot. And then you might also see here we have like a dashboard icon. This will make it appear in the dashboard, in the report. So we can have, yeah, we can actually have 2 tests called the same. That's fine. Click OK to create it. And you can see it's enabled by default. Only the enabled ones will be shown in the main schedule health tab. So since I don't want this anymore, I'm going to disable that one. So now I have my DCMA14 test here instead. I have to select it like that. So if I now add back that, well, now we have 0% hard constraints. That's fine. Let's just add it back again. Something like that. Now we can see it's red, which is what we wanted. So that was just one little example of how you can change these tests and change the metrics. And I could probably speak for a couple of hours about that. But we don't have that time now. So
you want to maybe have a quick look at the other thing that you mentioned was the schedule cost. Yes. Into the cost module. So I think we've got a couple of minutes to do that, and then yeah, if you can manage it in that time, Fred.
Sure. Yes. So what Doug said was that we have this new feature, which we call scheduled cost in cost module. And so what I mentioned before, that like previously, like the cost that you model in the schedule. For example, in this example, we have some man hours and model as resources. They have these resources that have cost on them. The total cost in the schedule is 304,000. We don't have a top node here. We could have added that, but it's 304,800. But in addition to that, in this particular model, we also have like cost in the cost tab. They're 137,000. So when we run the analysis, we have some costs here, and these are the schedule costs. So these are costs in the schedule. So you can see up here, like whenever we have both schedule, both sort of data in the schedule and the cost tab, we get these 2 icons up here. So you can switch between like schedule results and cost results. And in the schedule, we have costs. So therefore we have like a cost tab down here. So these are the ones, 304,800, that you saw in here. If we go to the cost, we have 137,000, which are the ones that come from here. But previously, they were never added up. And we always said to people, you have to make a choice. You have to like either do your cost modeling in the schedule or do your cost modeling in the cost tab. But it turns out that some people are actually finding that like some things are better in the schedule tab and some things are better in the cost tab. And that sometimes you want to use both methods, but then you want to be able to sum them up, of course. So in this version, we have solved this problem by allowing you in the cost tab to add this new node that we call the schedule cost node. So the cool thing about that is that this schedule cost node will contain like all the costs from the schedule, and you can add it wherever you want to in your cost hierarchy. I'm just going to add it here at the top right below my project main node. And when I do that, I get some extra columns. I get an extra column for the schedule cost here. And you can see like the total cost over here. So here we can see them added up straight away. 137 plus 304, 442. And we can also see when we click on this node that the orange in this picture is the schedule cost, and the blue is the cost from the cost module. And as you can see, it has also brought in the time phasing from the schedule. So it's not just a number, it's actually how it's spread out. And if we run analysis with a step through, you would see like the costs changing in here. If we look in the cost module, that same cost should be coming into this node here. And you can see like how it changes over time as well. And when we run the results, we can see we now have this same node inside the cost results. So it's all added up here, and all the values will include both the schedule cost and the cost from the cost module. I did promise I was going to show this new find as well, didn't I? Just quickly. So just in many of these views where you have a schedule view, you can now press Control F, and you can search for example, roof. So it's like an alternative to doing the filtering, because sometimes you want to see what you're searching for in the context without filtering out everything else, like this. So I think that's about all for me.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much, Fred. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a lag seemed to go on at times with your screen right at the end. So there was a I think the screen didn't kind of quite catch up enough, but I think it was a really really it's all right. I think we got the message for the most part anyway, and it was really kind of good to see some of the new things. I'm really kind of I'm you know, little things that you kind of get excited about when you're a practitioner. I'm quite keen to kind of have a play around with this schedule cost. But even things like grouping the calendars is a big nice extra. It saves having to kind of try and edit XML files and all sorts of stuff. So thank you very much for that, Fred. It gives us lots of stuff to be looking forward to. There are a few questions, but I think that as I'm just a bit conscious of the fact that we're already kind of like a couple of minutes over, and so what we'll do, we'll just kind of any kind of final questions that we need to kind of go back to, we'll, as Gustavo said or Craig said at the start, we'll make sure we supply some answers to. Just I guess just before we close, just a couple of things. So we've kind of talked quite a bit about the efforts that we put into kind of educating and spreading the QSRA word, and obviously that's something that Safran do a lot of as well on LinkedIn and so on. So we'll make sure that we send around an email with various dates and times for future events and training. So please keep an eye open for that. Hopefully you've all enjoyed the session today. Of course, you know, if you've got any requests or topics that you'd like to be covered the next one of these or future webinars, please do engage with us. We always you know, both Ferryfield and Safran, we really try and listen to what customers need, what customers are after. It helps drive us, drives the software. It helps drive how we train and consult in it. So the more we can collaborate with you guys who are using the software at the coalface, the more we all get out of it. So please let us know whether it's improvements for the product that Fred's always delighted to hear about. Well, unless they're from myself and Chris Ritson, in which case he tends to roll his eyes and say, no, but let's wait till customers start asking for it. But if you've got any improvement requests, please let us know. But I guess just to kind of, you know, finally wrap up, very much on behalf of Safran and Ferryfield, I want to thank all of the speakers today. Having done lots of these myself, I'm very fully aware of kind of how much effort goes into all the presentations. So your efforts are very much appreciated. So thank you very much. And you know, we also want to thank you all for coming along today. Thank you for being so generous with your time. We hope that you've got lots out of the sessions. Thank you for your input, your questions, your interactions. They're all really valuable. So thank you all very much for attending. Goodbye. Hope you all keep well, and look forward to seeing you on the next one of these events. So thank you all very much. Bye bye.
Thanks, Doug. Bye everyone.